Welcome to the Goal Podcast, news and commentary from Gun Owners Action League, your leading voice for the Massachusetts gun owner.
I'm Jeff. Across the table is Garrett. Joined in, is this the official, unofficial Goal Podcast studio?
This is the Gold Podcast world headquarters in studio.
There.
Joined by in my basement. Yeah.
Joined by Mike Harris.
Yes, sir.
Goal's public policy director. We're in it for fight night tonight.
Oh yeah.
The Tyson v. Paul fight later on.
Tyson Paul fight later on. Yeah.
What are the predictions here, fellas?
I'm hoping it's very one-sided.
I'm hoping it's very one-sided. So there's what I want to happen, and there's what I think will actually happen.
Do you think Jake Paul's going to win?
I think,
No.
Oh,
I
don't want him to.
I know he's got some reach on him.
I don't want him to, but he's got the weight advantage, he's got youth, and he's got reach. And what I want to happen is for Mike Tyson to forget that he's in like a show bout and lose his cool and like send that dude's jawbone into the crowd.
Yeah.
That's what I would like to happen. What what's actually going to happen?
What's Tyson's record? It's like
he's like 50-6.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah, the dude is a monster, but he's also 58 years old. So
he looks better than I do. I'm 38.
I will be very happy to eat these words, but if we're putting predictions down,
I think children.
I think that's right. I'm gonna eat these children. If we're putting predictions down of what I think is going to happen, which is not the same as what I want to happen, I think it's going to be Paul by decision.
Oh man, that's depressing.
You?
I mean, I have not met anybody, not one person, like talking face to face that does not want to see Tyson win by knockout.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody says they want
him to murder that
Tyson by KO.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The only thing that, the question I come down to is conditioning. And at 58 years old, can he go deep into this fight?
That's what kind of concerns
with the energy
me is that it's not 12 3-minute rounds. It's 8 2-minute rounds. And there's a reason for that. And they have the slightly heavier gloves and I'm worried that Tyson's going to gas out after the first couple of rounds, right?
Yeah. I think if Paul can survive through round 3.
Tyson's always been an early round fighter. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
He freaking murders them in the first round. Yeah.
All those fights in the 90s where like everybody like got together. They're like, yeah, I paid for the fight. It's over in like 30 seconds.
Hey, nothing would make me happy. In my heart of hearts, I want to see Tyson go out there and in about 10 seconds, like duck that punch and then rock that right-handed uppercut. And you see the mouthpiece go flying.
Yeah. If he lands a good solid punch, then it's over. But
I think there's something to be said for experience too. I mean,
absolutely. So I am, despite what I want to happen, I am Paul by decision. What are you doing?
Oh, you know what? I'm going to call it just for the feels. Tyson by KO within the first 2 rounds.
I love it. You know what? Nothing would make me happier. What about you?
I think Tyson will win the popular vote, but no. Wait a second. No, I'm thinking Tyson first or second round.
All right.
I want it to happen. I'm putting it out there. I don't care if I'm wrong or not.
You know what? I called Paul by decision, but nothing would make me happier than to be wrong.
I appreciate that.
Like I said, my vote's pure emotional feel. So
yeah, I don't want to see anything by decision at all.
No, that's boring. Nobody wants that stuff. All right, so here we are. What else is going on? We're into November. Yeah, you and I just got back from a hunting trip in Jackman. That was awesome.
I saw somebody. You guys shot a puppy dog with antlers.
Yeah, dog with antlers. Yeah.
That was.
Yep, Jeff shot a little sandwich.
Yeah, our attorney. Emailed us. He was like, "Hey, I saw you guys doing some good work up there in Maine."
Yep, decreasing the deer population by 1.
You just do a call
by
job.
1. And what was really funny is it wasn't it was what, a 4-point buck. Mm-hmm. Nothing to write home about. It dressed out at about 130 pounds.
Got the job done.
We took it over to in Maine. They have check-in stations, and you go and they weigh it and they put in a bunch of information and stuff.
Sorry, you got a buck within 2 days of like going on vacation. That's dope. You can't go. You have nothing negative to say about that.
Oh, it was a great time. Pure luck. And if anybody ever asks you, would you rather be lucky than good? The answer is luck every single time.
Yeah, but that was a great trip, though. Great.
But
trip.
Hey, we had tenderloin for dinner.
Boy,
Jim is an insane cook, as you know. So awesome trip overall.
Cool.
It was really cool. So what's going on in the goal world? What do we got? Lucky 20 raffles going on?
Yeah.
When is the drawing for that?
It's like this. It's usually December 20th.
Yeah, it's somewhere. It's just before Christmas usually. Yeah. So tickets are still available. Go to goal.org. Get your tickets. All proceeds go to fund the fight. Also, folks at the office recently did a pretty big overhaul of the Chapter 135 page.
Yes.
On the website. So there's a lot of updates there.
Tons of updates.
So go check out I think on the website it's called the H4885 page. But it's the same thing. So go there, check out the updates. Yeah, and so I had got the notification, or actually I was looking at Mass Fish Hunt website, or the guidance website, and Fish and Wildlife is claiming that there's no real changes to the laws. So therefore, they don't see the need to issue refunds to people who bought licenses on the idea that they'd actually be able to hunt this year.
Well, their initial response was that they didn't have a mechanism to issue the refunds.
Right.
And now the claim is that, well, since there are technically still options available for a non-resident to hunt,
which they're not
they're
really,
saying that therefore they don't have to issue any refunds. It's kind of like the T. They say like, well, just because we ran a train that day means we provided service and we give no refunds.
Yeah. So we'll do, I guess we can jump into, because there was also a new guidance document that came out just today, and we can jump into the details of that later on. But first, did anything interesting happen last week?
Oh boy.
On the national stage.
We're at what, D-Day plus 10?
something like that. And somehow the world hasn't ended.
Weird.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Yet.
So as we record this, we're about a week and a half out of the 2024 election.
Sir.
I have to say publicly that although I'm personally fine with the way that the election went, I expected that it was going to go the other way.
I wasn't sure. I mean, I
was like a 60-40 that it was going to go the other way.
I think it really depended on your point of view. Really depended on what you watched for media leading up to it.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong, and that's what everybody was saying. Everybody was saying that,
which is really unfortunate.
It kind of is, because it says a lot about the pollsters being crap and the news agencies being crap, and
pollsters have always been crap,
not reflective of the constituency, not reflective of the electorate.
Sample sizes and margins of error,
all of that,
and question setup and all that stuff. It really affects like how people answer stuff, which is bizarre to me, because I've never really. I've been polled once in my life. I legitimately have. Yeah.
Yeah. One time I've never been polled.
A Rasmussen poll.
Really?
Back during the Scott Brown election.
Oh, like in the 2010 era.
Yeah. Around then.
Well,
so,
as everybody knows that we're listening to, everybody knows by now that Donald Trump has won his second term.
Yes.
As president. So he's the 45th and now going to be the 47th president.
With Grover Cleveland?
Yeah, Grover Cleveland in 1890 something?
The only other president that had non-consecutive terms.
Exactly. And with Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio as his VP. Now I have to say that when it happened, it was a surprising pick for me. And I was like, what? And then so I took some time and I actually read the dude's book, Hillbilly Elegy.
I haven't gotten to read
it yet. It was a decent read. It was a pretty decent read.
Well, I mean, they made a movie out of it.
Yeah, they did, and it won some awards and stuff. Yeah. So it was like, all right, cool.
He impressed the hell out of me. I didn't really know a ton about him.
Beforehand.
God shows me a little bit, but he's still a relatively new senator.
Yeah,
he's like the hillbilly Barack Obama.
Hillbilly.
But
that's going to get you in trouble with the service.
That's what he's hillbilly elegy. Obama was in the Senate 2 years before he?
Yeah. I remember them joking. My career in politics, my 18-month journey. Yeah. Life in politics, my 18-month journey.
That always reminds me of that Reagan quote when he's like,
I'll never let my opponent's youth and inexperience.
I won't exploit my opponent's youth and inexperience. Yeah.
So what actually happened? Trump ended up sweeping all 7 of the contested swing states: Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Georgia.
Yes, collectively
worth 93 electoral college votes.
We're going to end up with 312.
312, yeah.
Yep, 312 to Harris's 226. Trump also won the popular vote by just about 3 million votes.
Was it 3 million? I thought it was higher than that.
It was higher, but it's been tightening a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
but still 3 million votes.
It was California with still counting.
Yeah. So, but 3 million votes is still a pretty decisive.
Get yourself together, California. Come on, guys.
It's still a pretty decisive. I mean, it's no matter how you slice it, it's a pretty solid beating.
Oh, especially in this country, like as divided as we are.
Yeah, yeah, and it's going to make a lot of people be quiet now about saying, "Oh, we need to abolish the Electoral College and go with the popular vote." Well, it should make people quiet, but
until next time.
Yeah.
Just like they got to get. Just like they don't. Just like that. Now they don't want to get rid of the filibuster or pack the Supreme Court anymore.
All of a sudden,
there's a great interview with Pramila Jayapal, and they asked her specifically that question. They said, "Well, you know, now that the Republican Party has the White House, the House, and the Senate, do you still as vehemently support ending the filibuster as you did before?" And without missing a beat, she said, "No. If we had won, yes, but since we have lost, no." Is the substance of her answer.
Came right out and said, "No, I'm totally a weather vane."
Everybody's saying the quiet part out loud now.
I'm an absolute weather vane.
Hey, listen, I'll take it.
Will change.
I want to know. I want to know exactly what you think. So I mean, I'm not surprised. I wasn't surprised of the election result in the sense of like one side winning over the other. I was surprised to see all the swing states go in one direction.
All of them.
I was surprised at the vote gain of.
It was a rightward swing for the entire country.
Yeah, it felt like this was
Rhode Island.
Even in places like this, yeah.
It felt like this was getting towards the red wave that they said we were supposed to see 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you were saying, it was a shift to the right,
for
even in deeply entrenched states like Massachusetts, California, et cetera. It still went
20 points across Massachusetts, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like in states that Biden won like decisively in 2020, Harris still won this time, but by much less than Biden did in 2020.
Eggs are like $7 a dozen, or butter's like $7 a pound.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, come on.
It's like how many times can you tell people the economy's fantastic? I wouldn't change a thing, and then
Well, comparing it to last election, I think is a tough comparison to make, considering the. COVID certainly had an influence, but the level of mail-in voting, the number of votes that were cast or allegedly cast, or however you feel about it, I think comparing the two, I think they ran. If you ignore the Biden versus Trump election, they ran sort of close to numbers, but
the same.
I don't view it so much as a swing to the right as a swing to the center. Looking at it from a 10,000 foot view, I think the Democratic Party kind of pulled away from the center.
Well, the problem though,
and then that just kind of got filled in.
The right,
and if you
didn't move center though, so the right moved further right.
Well, if you look at the party, the Republican Party, and you look at the people that they've since brought on into all of their cabinet positions, a lot of them are pretty much lifelong former Democrats. Trump was a Democrat his more or less his whole life
until he
ran.
Yeah.
RFK's now in the cabinet. Tulsi Gabbard's now in the cabinet, and those were all people that were Democrats up until 2-3 years ago.
That's fair.
Okay.
All right.
So I look at this as more of a.
Rogan was a Democrat. Elon Musk was a Democrat.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think as one side kind of, there's that natural pendulum swing. As one side kind of left the center, the other side filled in, and I don't see it as much of as an overall national shift to right wing politics. So more as like one side represented that bulk of people in the middle better than the other.
It was a swing to sanity.
Instead of the previous elections where it was really just about getting the extreme tail ends of the spectrum to show up in big numbers.
That's actually fair now.
All right.
I don't disagree with much of that.
All right.
That's
go with that.
That's a good way to put it. I don't disagree.
So the Republicans have now gained control of the U.S. Senate with, as of this recording, at least 53 seats.
Yep.
Flipping 4 previously Democratic seats. It's not a filibuster-proof majority, but it's still pretty decisive.
Yeah.
Senate Republicans have elected South Dakota Senator John Thune. So you're making a face. I actually like this dude. What about John Thune fails to impress you as compared to Cornyn and Rick Scott.
Rick Scott's like a way bigger two-way guy.
I don't know about that.
That's everything I've read.
We're going to have a discussion about this. So I have a quote from John Thune. So, all right, John Thune is from South Dakota.
Yeah.
He was selected by the Senate as the new Senate Majority Leader. Okay. John Thune entered politics in 1996 as like a House member for like the one congressional seat that South Dakota has. And he's been in there all this time. There's a quote from him that says, I strongly support the second. The Second Amendment, which protects the right of the people to keep and bear arms. While others may disagree, I firmly believe the plain language of the Second Amendment guarantees the individual right of law-abiding.
When did he say that?
I don't know. But
that's important. I mean,
I'm not sure when the quote was, but it was probably during his campaign. So you're a Rick Scott guy? Is that what what I'm reading? Because you're like
Paul guy. But,
I am.
But I was a Rick Scott guy in the three-way fight.
So here's the thing. So Rick Scott, as I'm sure that you remember, co-sponsored the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. He eventually voted against it.
Yeah.
But he did co-sponsor the bill when it was first written. John Cornyn wrote the bill. The only one of the three candidates who has been consistently against.
All right. Well, I'm happy to be proven wrong. That's a good thing.
I have not been able to find a single instance of, other than a couple of omnibus must-pass bills that had stupid shit in it. I have not been able to find a single instance of significant anti-gun legislation that John Thune has voted for.
Cool.
Right,
dude. I'm happy to be proven wrong.
I hope that he keeps up the.
This was a short-term election. I was not as focused on it as other things. I just knew what I had heard from. Yeah. The sources I was listening to. So I'm happy to be wrong on that. That's good. That's cool. Yeah, that'd be great.
So as the Senate leader, he's going to control what, if anything, comes to the floor. So hopefully. Hopefully that's the end of, like you've been saying for the last week, it'll be the end of federal gun control.
Federal gun control's got
nothing.
There's nowhere for it to go.
It's beautiful. I love it.
Trump might get, depending on what happens. So there's all these rumors that always fly around. So, Clarence Thomas is what, 81?
Thomas is 76.
76? Oh, Jesus, I was way off. Sorry, we're not at a game for a little while. No, man. So, Thomas is 76. So he's getting ready to retire, is what everybody's saying.
Maybe.
Alito has been talking about retiring.
Yeah.
I don't know what validity there is to this, but Justice Sotomayor might be sick.
She has health issues, but she's also made it pretty clear that she has no intent to step down,
which is fine. What it is.
Whatever. And frankly, I'm a little bit disgusted by a lot of the Democrats have been come out over the last week saying, she needs to step down so that Biden can, that's disgusting. That's gross.
And then Roberts is getting up there too.
He's not a young guy anymore.
No, you don't really think about it, but he's been there since the Bush administration.
Yeah.
What, 2000?
Well, Thomas is 76, Alito's 74, and Sotomayor is 70. Sotomayor said that she has no plans to retire. Sources close to Alito had given some information in I think it was a Wall Street Journal article, but don't necessarily quote me on that, saying that he's not looking at retiring as a matter of philosophy. Yeah. He's not again, this is someone that's saying something on his behalf too, and so who knows how true it is. But saying philosophically, he's not the kind of person that says, "I am going to vacate my seat for political purposes."
Right.
So, who's to say?
Well, that's supposed to be all nine of them.
That's the answer that they're supposed to give. Who knows how the Supreme Court's going to stack up?
But but we're going to get a ton of other judges, though. Who knows?
We're going to get a lot of federal judges.
Who knows? Maybe the First Circuit will get a little bit of a jolt in the ass.
That'd be nice. So that's the Supreme Court. I guess is going to shake. It's going to be interesting to see people lose their heads, though, if Trump gets more Supreme Court.
He's I think he's going to.
Well, if
people are going to explode.
If it's Thomas or Alito, there's really no fundamental change to the court.
No,
provided that Trump picks somebody that's more of a constitutional.
It's length. It's the length of time he gets.
That's the thing. Is people are going to go. He's going to choose 5 of the Supreme Court justices out of the 9.
Ketanji Brown Jackson is how old?
I think she's in her late 40s, early 50s.
She's 54.
54.
She'll be on there
She's
20
gonna
years.
be on
A
there.
while.
She's going to be
So-
there long after Trump and Biden are both dead.
Yeah, and and she hates the First Amendment, so
Oh God.
Oh, it hamstrings.
the
it hamstrings
Constitution getting in the way of the government. Yeah. So, all right, we don't have to rehash that. So, I mean, the Supreme Court is certainly going to be impacted. And like you kind of alluded to, we're going to have federal judges too.
yeah, a ton of them.
A ton of federal judges going to get chosen. So, and with a friendly Senate, that's it, you know.
You got 18. He has 18 months to just break as much stuff as he can.
So that's the Senate, President, Supreme Court, the House. The House.
What are we at? 222 right now? 220?
Are we at 220 now? Last I looked, we were still just below 220.
No, it's 220 this morning.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I
So
think they're looking at 223.
there you go.
Final
That's a majority. So the Republicans have retained
the
because we
House,
currently
yes.
have control of the House of Representatives. We needed 218 seats in order to maintain it. Looks like that has been achieved. All 435 seats were up for election. And so that's it. So this is a triumvirate. This is the White House and both chambers of Congress.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, how else do you spin that?
But from a pure Second Amendment standpoint, and I think I've been consistently kind of critical of the previous Trump administration for saying things like, take the guns first, due process second.
Oh, yeah.
Going to the ATF and saying, hey, I want you to redefine bump stocks.
Yes.
I want you to redefine frames and receivers. I want you to redefine pistol braces. So I think there's fair criticism from past history to say it's not necessarily a super pro-Second Amendment administration when it comes to practice.
But a lot has changed this time around. Too.
Yes.
Also true, but
He's
this
learned
is
a lot.
where
He's listening to his son.
He's listening to Susie Wiles, which is good.
Yeah. And Donald Trump Jr. is a huge Second Amendment advocate.
Well, and
huge.
fair enough to be an advocate, but what I see from both the executive branch and from the legislative branch, okay, there's a lot of people that have said a lot of pro-Second Amendment things. Now show me something.
Well,
I'm not looking for...
People are going to have to put their money where their mouth is.
I'm not looking for necessarily,
national reciprocity.
I'm not necessarily looking for just the feeling of...
John Thune, by the way, co-sponsored a bill for national reciprocity. Just by the way,
President Trump actually came out. One of the first things he said after he got elected was that he will sponsor and sign a National Reciprocity Act.
Well, there you go. Let's do it.
But let's not just look at it in the sense of like, okay, national gun control bills are now off the table, and therefore that unto itself is a victory. It's like for a very, very long time, both in Massachusetts and on the federal level, I feel like the Second Amendment community has been consistently on defense. Consistently. And it's like you're either getting punched in the face or you're waiting to get punched in the face.
That's the nature of not wanting them to screw with stuff.
So moving forward, it's like, okay, if you are as pro Second Amendment as you claim to be, and the representatives and the speakers and all of these positions are as pro Second Amendment as they claim to be, let's see something actually gain some territory for the Second Amendment community. You've run on a position. Let's see you execute, and let's see you actually put something on the table where gun owners are actually regaining a little bit of respect and traction.
Well, Brendan Herrera as ATF director could go.
Well, I was going to say, also, hell yeah, I'm into that AK guy for ATF guy. But no, I mean, look at the Democrats are perfectly willing to go the other way on it. The anti-guns are. So, I mean, did you see today they were debating a bill to ban bump stocks as the lame duck Congress just to try and slam it through.
Try to slam something through before they get kicked out.
They were trying to ban bump stocks, FRTs, frames.
They're like, we've already lost. Let's just
all kinds of stuff.
Just throw everything out.
Slam stuff through the lame duck Congress.
Sure, but it's like, okay, but now let's show me something.
Well, yeah, put your money where your mouth is.
I don't disagree. I
want to see some results.
Oh, of course.
I don't want to see. Well, I would love to see this opportunity not get squandered.
Yeah, kind of like it did last time. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean he
did
started
for a while. He had control of it.
As in a similar position.
Yeah, like I said, talked a good game, but when it came from transitioning from rhetoric to practice, it didn't follow through in the previous administration. I'd like to see that happen in this administration with this Congress.
All right. So on the Massachusetts level, State level now. Before Election Day, the balance of the Senate was 36 Democrat, 4 Republican.
Now it's 35-5.
Ooh, gaining ground. So it's going to be 35-5. We picked up the Republicans picked up 1 seat.
But the crappy thing is, the seat that we picked up was Mark Pacheco, who was the only Democrat that voted against 4885. He retired, and Kelly Dooner, the Republican, won that seat, which is great for them. I mean, it's great to have her. It's also great for the Commonwealth to have an opposition party that's a little bit stronger than it was last session, I guess.
5 out of 36.
Yeah.
Or 5 versus 35.
But it's really a wash. I mean, Mark Pacheco is the only Democrat in the entire Senate.
In our issue area, he was
great on our stuff. He got an A every session. He always worked with us. Yeah. I mean, he was great. Say what you want about Mark Pacheco and his other issues, but on Second Amendment stuff, he was great.
Our stuff, he was great.
He was almost flawless. So, that's a little bit of a loss. But overall, it's kind of a wash.
And we've seen, the D versus R thing as far as Second Amendment goes in the state of Massachusetts. The letter doesn't indicate necessarily a position or what somebody's going to vote on or what they're going to push for.
And I always say, as a nonpartisan organization in the deepest blue state there is, like, we live or die by how many pro-gun Democrats are in the legislature. Yeah. It's kind of where we exist. Yeah. So, a similar thing happened in the House.
Yeah.
We had an incumbent Democrat get beaten by a Republican, which is, again, great for the opposition party, but it was Patty Haddad who was fantastic on our issue. It's a shame.
Yeah.
Say what you want about her on her other opinions on stuff, but on Second Amendment issues, she was fantastic. Great. So, and she didn't even retire. And she didn't even retire. She lost outright.
Yeah.
So, again.
God damn it.
And then another shame is our ratty mom out of Lowell was another Democrat who flawless on Second Amendment issues over and over again. He's a Cambodian immigrant.
Yeah.
Came over in the 70s, knows communism, and said, hell no, we're not giving up our guns. He lost his primary back in March. And that's a shame. And his replacement is a progressive Democrat who we don't
great for us.
Was an unknown quantity, but probably
odds are pretty good. It's not going to be
are what they are. So that's kind of a shame. We have two Democrat allies who are no longer in the state house, which is always a shame. But the numbers stayed exactly the same.
Yeah. There's no shift in the balance of power of the Mass House. We are
0.
We were 132 to 24 plus 1 independent, and going forward, we will still be 132 to 24 to.
Well, I think it's fair to say that we're not going to see a radical shift from an anti-Second Amendment state legislature to a pro-Second Amendment state legislature.
With I think there were how many 2 vacancies?
Well, they're not vacancies. They were just undecided.
One of the things that I think will be interesting to see is I think it was the writing was on the wall that depending on the presidential election that Maura Healey was looking to step up into a federal role, attorney general or something along those lines. So I will be curious to see. She kind of has taken a bit of a, laissez-faire attitude towards a lot of things over the last section where she could have jumped in and been a little bit more of a vocal advocate. And I wonder if that was because there was the looking at a higher position.
I will say.
And now that is off the table, is she a little bit more like, hey, let's pull the pin on the grenade and really do whatever she wants to do?
I don't know. Or is she going to go, if I have higher aspirations for later on down, I better not make too much of a noise.
Does she upset the apple cart? Does she, try to go for the gusto?
They're already publicly discussing ways to circumvent question
ballot questions. The ballot questions it's on the audit in the now this is not our issue area, right? So we didn't go too deep into it, but question 1 and
kind
question,
of is.
Well, it's legislative power and
government,
all of that stuff.
I mean, this is the reason. This kind of stuff is the reason why our stuff exists.
So, question 1 was about the auditor having the power to audit the state legislature, and was question 4, I think, was the shrooms, and that one didn't pass, but the audit one did pass. And ever since then, but even before then, like Senate and House leadership are like, well, we'll see what we're going to do.
Yeah.
You should be saying, well, it's the will of the voters. We're going to do what the voter says. But instead they're saying, well, we may just, because they have the power to repeal it or not fund it or, simply ignore it or all of those things. And they have publicly to the news outlets been saying things like, we'll see what we want to do. Yeah, that should, in a normal state, that would put the fear of God into somebody who, if there was like an actual opposition party, that would be something for people to run on and get primaried. Yep. Not here.
No, because here we have headlines like GOP leader open to 1 week for fall formal sessions. Those are the conversations that we're seeing. So,
Yeah.
So that's where we are. I mean,
yeah, it's a very intriguing position where the state government says, well, we're just not going to do what we're told to do.
Yeah. I know you guys voted and everything, but you just sit down and we'll make the decision.
Yeah, we're not going to be audited, and we'll tell you what you need to know. That's a very scary position.
We all know you plebeians aren't going to vote against us anyway, so
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, but does Diana, like the auditor Diana DeZoglio, who's awesome, by the way. I love her. She's
her?
Oh, she's fantastic.
Yeah. All right.
She's fantastic. But no, the House is pitching this alternative legislative audit, and she's just shooting back in the press saying like, nope, this is like slapping voters in the press. Nope, I'm not gonna take anything different. She's fantastic. I'm a fan.
What it is.
Well, and what are they looking to when they talk about auditing the legislature?
The books. They're not talking about procedures and votes and nothing that's
just
within
looking
the parliamentary
purely
power.
Financial.
They're talking about what the legislature is spending on the legislature.
Yeah. And the
lunch.
the fact
like
that
lunches and gas cards and vehicles and
junkets to Puerto Rico, by the way, and all of the things that the fact that they're pushing back against that so hard is by itself, suspicious. No, I don't see it as a separation of powers issue.
No, well, so it's kind of unique in Massachusetts where. If the auditor fell under the actual executive branch, like under the governor, and was like appointed,
then okay, all right, then I guess you could
separation of powers issue more than it
elected.
is. But it is a separation of powers issue, but a lot less than it would be
if she was a political appointee.
A political appointee, it's a lot different.
But even still, she's not doing. She doesn't have the power to audit anything with regard to parliamentary procedure or votes or any of that stuff.
Nothing over the rules of because each branch gets
which is too bad, honestly. But somebody should have freaking oversight.
Technically, they didn't break the rules because they can just suspend their own rules.
Right. They just
the judiciary does.
It's supposed to be the people.
They're supposed to be the ones that check it. So
anyway, I mean that's a whole nother conversation, but the fact that it passed and the fact that it
passed 70 to 30,
like
resounding support,
like kaboom.
Yeah. This is what people want unquestionably, and the leadership is going.
The immediate reaction is, we're probably imagine that they're not going to comply.
Oh, you mean that group of people in Boston that the last 3 leaders in a row went to federal prison? Oh.
All right. So that is election 2024. For the most part, For the most part, So there's a couple things still need to be hashed out, but those are the broad strokes. I guess we'll see what happens when the new people take over in January.
Brandon Herrera for ATF director. I will say
so NSSF did send a note to Donald Trump asking him to dismantle Joe Biden's Office of Gun Control.
Oh, absolutely. Obviously that needs to go.
Obviously.
I mean, dude, this administration went after the first 2 amendments, like right away.
Openly. And said, yes, we're going to.
By setting up departments, like remember the Department of Misinformation?
Yes,
I know it wasn't called that, but that's
the most Orwellian
thing.
The Ministry of Disinformation.
Yeah, it's absurd. And then they set this nonsense up.
Yeah, it all needs to get shot down and thrown away.
Horrendous.
So,
I think it's very along the lines of like they make up this stuff to give someone's kid a job and pay them a bunch of taxpayer money. So now that they have the unofficial. It's not really a department. It's more of an advisory thing. The Department of Government Efficiency.
Doge.
Which, is cheeky funny, but I also look at this and I go, come on.
Really? I sit back at some of these and I'm like, that name's a little cringy. And then, I think personally what I think it is, he's like, all right, you two guys go sit in a corner and every once in a while send us a memo or whatever. It doesn't have any power.
Hey, billionaire guys who have other stuff to do.
Yeah.
Thanks for helping us out.
Yeah.
No, it's nonsense. I'm tired of that.
Well, as much as I'm not a fan,
Elizabeth Warren and
oh god, you should sit down and shut.
But as much as I'm not a fan of like the cheeky names and the fanfare,
I'm a huge fan. It's the highest level trolling you could possibly do.
But I also look at this and I go, I'm less concerned about the trolling than I am about the results. Show me some results.
Oh, yeah.
So,
fair.
If they look at dismantling the Office of Gun Violence Prevention just because it's an absolute waste of taxpayer money.
It's also a slap in the face to their Bill of Rights.
Well, yeah.
Shut up. Like, I'm tired of this crap. Not you.
You can answer their entire thing really quickly. How you solve gun violence is get rid of the violent people.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Imagine that.
Oh, there you go.
Or just like
close the department. We're all set. Pack it up, boys. Let's talk about the Supreme Court. There's update to Snope v. Brown.
I know there's great reporting from Cam Edwards at Bearing Arms.
Cam is the best.
Cam's awesome. I'm bragging that we had him on the show a few weeks. It was awesome.
It's like, I got his phone number.
That's right. I texted Cam Edwards.
But Maryland has filed their brief of opposition to SCOTUS granting cert in the Snope v. Brown Maryland assault weapons ban challenge. So the court is currently scheduled to review the case in conference somewhere in early to mid-December, which, if accepted, will put the case to be heard sometime spring of 2025. And then presumably any decision would be released towards the end of that session.
Mm-hmm.
So Maryland's requesting that, obviously, the court deny the cert.
Right.
Obviously.
And they're claiming that, listen, the Fourth Circuit is consistent and straightforward on trampling on people's rights, so there's no confusion there. And their determination
they said there's no confusion, therefore there must not be any.
Well, in that their determination that the so-called, put the air quotes around it, assault weapons are not covered by the Second Amendment. And even if they were, banning them is perfectly fine anyway, because it's consistent with the nation's historical tradition of firearms regulation. They're trying to use the NFA and the GCA as, and this is my term here, as a gun control loophole. They're trying to use gun control loopholes, and they're leaning on things like, Scalia's comment in DC versus Heller saying that the Second Amendment is not unlimited, and that now Cam brought it up, and I actually looked up this interesting number. The number of ARs or AR patterned firearms currently owned by private citizens is about on par with all F-Series pickup trucks sold by Ford going back to like the mid-70s.
Says the guy who drives an F-150.
I know. So, yeah, Cam did was doing his thing. And he's made the comment about F. And I was like, I have to look this up.
And sure enough.
Yeah, it's on par with all F-Series trucks that have been sold since like the late 70s.
So I always knew it. F-150s are weapons of war. So as usual, they try to like reposition the goalposts and draw lines around things that shouldn't have lines drawn around them. So we'll keep an eye on Snope v. Brown, see what happens.
Yeah, we'll find out. That'll be about mid-December. We'll find out whether or not that gets granted cert. And I think that'll be very telling about what the court plans to do for the next couple of years.
I agree.
If they're just like the Bruin decision was a dip in the water in the Second Amendment realm, or if they're really looking at tackling firearms as an issue to really settle some stuff for the long time going forward.
So much of this stuff doesn't have highest level jurisprudence attached to it. It's like cases of first impression for the Supreme Court all over the place.
Well,
doesn't want to be that guy. I mean, it's like the final frontier of law.
Yeah, because it's been left alone for so many years.
So long.
Yeah. All right. Last but not least, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, EOPSS, Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, has released yet another guidance document. Came out.
The email is guidance number 3.
Guidance number 3. So it's dated November 14th. I got my copy regarding an act modernizing firearms laws. Now, Goal has reposted this document on the Goal website. So what it basically boils down to is a bunch of FAQs that regarding Chapter 135 of the Acts 2024. As usual, it's got some stuff in here that basically boils down to saying, yeah, I know what the law says, but we're going to do it this way.
Well, essentially, they're saying that they're not going to enforce any laws until they're good and ready to do it.
Yeah.
Not in the sense of protecting the Second Amendment community, but more in the sense of protecting themselves from lawsuits. Saying that, that even though the law clearly outlines that they are supposed to have a curriculum, testing, methods for issuing serial numbers, all of this stuff is supposed to be in place. When it comes to their legal responsibilities, they get to unilaterally determine that, well, this is really unenforceable until we decide it's unenforceable.
Yeah. Right.
Or we decide to enforce something.
So, I mean...
But it was an emergency, guys.
It was an emergency.
This is such an emergency.
Go into effect
right away.
Yeah. So, big pieces here. I mean, we'll get into a deeper analysis of this once you guys have had a chance to dig through it. But of particular concern are the types of licenses. That section is a little concerning to me. The fact that people who used to be able to get LTCs for owning businesses in Massachusetts, even if they don't live here anymore, you can no longer do that.
Right.
So that's concerning.
Yeah, everything's now based on your actual address of residence. So even if you lived in, if you lived in one town and had a business in the neighboring town, you have to go through the town you reside in.
Right.
Yeah.
So same thing. If you live out of state and you own a business in the state, it's all based on your actual residential address. So if you had a resident LTC because you had a business in the state, you will now have to go through the process as a new applicant.
Yep.
Through the non-resident system.
I still get gobsmacked by the fact that they're calling it a registry.
But right out loud. Do I need to register my firearms? Yes.
Disgusting.
Firearms must be registered once the license is issued. It's right there in plain language. This is 100% registry.
Now, what I found really funny was so in their FAQs, number 9, I'm moving to Massachusetts. Do I need to register my firearms? And they say, yes. A new resident of Massachusetts has 60 days to obtain a firearms license. Even the really good towns that are pro Second Amendment, that we've never had issues with, aren't cranking them out that fast.
Yeah, because the state isn't that fast.
Yeah.
So
yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, they're putting a legal requirement on the people that they themselves cannot meet.
Yep.
So they're making noises about non-resident hunters under 18 in Massachusetts. That is, to me, that's a sticking point because I don't think that this guidance agrees with the actual letter of the law.
It does not.
So
it does not.
So once again, they're basically just making shit up as they go along.
So don't listen to number 15 or 16 if you don't want your kid to go to jail.
And that's regarding non-resident hunters under 18, possessing rifles and shotguns to hunt. Our current understanding is no semi-autos to anybody who doesn't have an LTC.
Doesn't have an LTC. Even a temporary LTC is fine.
There was like a weird vacuum area of if you're old enough to get an FID, you have to have an FID. So you couldn't be furnished a gun if you're old enough to have an FID and you don't have one.
Yep.
So kid A, who's 15 years old, applied for his FID and doesn't have it yet, not allowed to hunt.
Right.
His 13-year-old sister is allowed to hunt and be furnished a gun.
Yep.
Under supervision.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it's terrifying because it really puts you in the position where as a young kid who would arguably not be able to make heads or tails of this, that's a criminal charge on your record, which we know there's no such thing as a sealed record or a juvenile record in the eyes of the state
when it comes to
for firearms licensing. Yeah. So when that individual ultimately decides to go the route of buying firearms, now they have this issue in their past that they're going to have to constantly rehash and deal with.
Yep.
All because
you got to say yes every time they apply.
The state law says one thing and you have guidance from the state police that says another, who really don't have the authority to make that determination.
Yeah, it's a bad law written by bad people.
Remember, Michael Day said this is constitutional challenge proof.
And what's really scary is as we see, we've seen the criminals that get arrested and the police recommend all these charges, and then police want to throw the book at them, and then they get to a district attorney, and the district attorney says, we're going to let them plea it down to basically nothing.
Yeah.
That can also work in the opposite direction, where the police say, hey, listen, we're just going to throw this little thing at them for reason X, Y, Z. It's not really that big of a deal. There's nothing preventing that district attorney from saying, nope, we're going to throw every inch of every book at them.
Yeah.
So even though
what the EOPSS says.
So Mass State Police say, well, we're not going to enforce it against you, but it's ultimately not up to them. It's up to the district attorneys and to the courts on what they're going to enforce. So and they
go with what the EOPSS says.
And they have the letter of the law in their hands. Yeah. And they say, well, this is, they can easily say this is clearly a black and white issue.
So
and
you can
get all sorts jammed up.
You can make arguments in court about, hey, I have this memo that says this, right? But that's not a guaranteed win.
No.
I mean, your lawyer will pull out the memo and say, listen, this is, they were going by this. And
official guidance.
And then the prosecutor's going to say, well, guess what? The law actually says. So, you can't bet your future on what the EOPSS says in memorandum guidance number 3.
The police don't ultimately decide what you are and are not charged with.
Right.
So, hey, great. Thanks for the guidance that doesn't really help or do anything.
Yeah.
Basically a whole bunch of paper that I think really just, I get they want to cover themselves and I get they want to provide themselves some legal protection, but I think this ultimately puts the general public in a much more dangerous position with contradicting guidance and all these different what may or may not be enforced.
Always going to happen with this law.
Yeah. And we tried to say that to them in the beginning.
But they didn't care.
They put their fingers in their ears and did it anyway. All right, so goal.org on the 4885 page, Jim has uploaded this new guidance, so check that out. And I imagine at some point in the not too distant future, we'll have Jim on again. We'll talk policy and some deeper discussions about what all this means. In the meantime, though, I say we wrap it up and go get ready for a fight. One of us, or one or two of us, is going to be eating crow the next time we record. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, on that note, I think we can probably wrap it up. Mike Harris, Goals Public Policy Director. Thank you for coming down.
Of course.
Thanks for joining.
Always a good time.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks for having me, guys.
That's it for today. Thanks for listening in. Be sure to subscribe to the Goal Podcast and check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Goal Podcast MA. On YouTube at The Goal Podcast or on Twitter at Goal Update.
To join Goal, visit goal.org, click the Join Renew button on the top of the homepage.
If you have a topic you think we should cover, if there's something going on in your club or town, or if you have a question for the mailbag, shoot us an email at goalpodcast@goal.org.
The Goal Podcast is a production of Gun Owners Action League of Massachusetts. The views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests, Mike, and do not necessarily reflect those of Goal, its staff, or affiliates.